Being 5:15, we'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee for Wednesday, June 7th to order. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy, has the attendance been noted?
It has.
Thank you.
It's welcome.
Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mr. Barrington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First item, review of license application. And this would be under Nicole and Jeff.
Chad, should we vocalize the three people that are on Zoom for votes? Can we?
Yes. So Mark, Dave, and Belinda, can you provide your votes for adopting the agenda, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so Nicole and Jeff, we have on item number 3, a review of license application.
So I was given a Zachary Furmanix application here to review it, and we follow the same procedure for everyone that's involved with asking for a bartender's license. A while back, the city council had approved the NLPD bartender's license approval guidelines. This was actually back when Wilkinson was chief. And so what I do is I follow through. We have dispatch pull up all the incidents involved with each person, along with they're supposed to list everything. So if you got a copy of the approval list, I'll kind of go through it. It starts out, is there a major drug or alcohol related crime in the last 10 years? Well, just in 2022, this person was arrested and convicted of possession of cocaine and also illegally obtaining of prescriptions. So if you say yes, that takes you to the right to the yes. Then it says, has the applicant shown separation or reform from the actions that caused the criminal charge? He was also arrested for OWI second offense, which is a crime. And that would lead us to no. And then it says no license issued. Now, if you do say that the possession of cocaine is not a major crime, we follow it down to no, and then it says, is there any drug charges in the last 5 years? That would be yes. Moves us over there. Has the applicant demonstrated reform or actions of the abuse? I would push that towards no with the OWI. He also does have a third OWI, which is also a crime pending right now, which cannot be used because he has not been convicted of it yet. But as far as separation from this, it seems to keep leading to no as far as the license being issued. So that's why my recommendation was no, and why I present this to you today.
I would add that the applicant was informed of tonight's meeting and chose not to attend.
And committee members, and you have all the supporting information in your packets. And if the committee concurs with the chief's recommendation, then there's no motion needed tonight. I guess what we're looking for is concurrence or otherwise with the chief's recommendation.
We're looking for a motion to approve or?
Actually, no, we would only need a motion if everyone disagreed with the chief's recommendation following the flow chart. So if everyone is in concurrence with following the flow chart we followed for the last 10 years or more, then we do not need a motion, and it would just stand as the recommendation of not permitting that license.
And this applicant's name is not included on the list of beverage operator applicants for item number 3. So his name has been separated out from that list.
Number 3 or number 4?
4, sorry.
So
I
right now-
am at home shaking my head. Yes, I agree.
So, Yes, Mark, Dave and Belinda, I guess, do you object with the chief's recommendation?
I absolutely agree with the chief's recommendation.
It looks like we have concurrence of the committee unless anyone. So we'll move on to item number 4, the rest of the license approval list. Nicole?
So you'll see in your packet, there are the lists of both the beverage operator licenses that would also need council approval. And then the license applications for the stores. There were some establishments that did apply for a license, but then rescinded that. Example, or those would be Events Everlasting rescinded their application, as well as BSF Entertainment and Gothic Investments. Dragon's Den is being sold, so the new owner as of July 19th or July.
Thanks for coming tomorrow.
What?
Oh.
Cyber, do you know if you're coming in tomorrow?
He's got it.
So as of July 18th, there's an accepted offer to purchase on Dragon's Den. So the other 2 interested parties rescinded their application. So you'll see that noted on there. I put a note in the packet that again, that Events Everlasting doesn't want to renew. Familiar Grounds has applied for a combination Class B. So instead of just selling beer and wine, they want to be able to sell beer, wine, liquor, and that enables them to sell wine by the bottle as well. Zero's Cafe did not turn in an application yet. So because of the publication requirements, they would not, will not be on the June list. They would have to be in July at this point. Family Dollar didn't submit their application on time, but they have submitted it since and paid the late fee. So they're included on the list. I do have, since I sent the packets, I did have one that is delinquent in payment to a alcohol wholesaler. So if that is not paid statutorily, I cannot issue them a license. So Next Level Fitness, USC will be on the list, but if they don't pay off their invoice from March to the distributor, then I cannot issue them a license.
So the combination B, we're allowed 18 of them?
Correct. And because the Zeros didn't apply for one and Events Everlasting didn't rescinded theirs, and then we had Familiar Ground add theirs, we now have a little wiggle room. We have one available, so.
And then for the chief, I'm guessing all the bartenders are reviewed annually as well?
Yes, every May or ballpark, April, May, when we start receiving them, we send them to dispatch. Dispatch pulls up everybody's name, runs a check on them. If there's anything new, then it gets sent to me for review. If nothing changes, then we approve it.
So everyone on this list, the police department has reviewed, as well as I checked in with Fire Chief Wilfer and Dave Vincent to make sure there were no outstanding issues, and he didn't have an issue with any of these establishments being issued a liquor license.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Is there any other questions from anybody?
Make a motion to approve the license list.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mr. Besaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm sorry, we didn't catch Belinda's vote on that.
And Mayor's Mark's vote for the license list.
Mayor Mark is yes.
All in favor, so the motion's carried.
I forgot one thing. If there are any beverage operator applicants that come in between now and the council meeting, I can put them on there with just a note that, you know, they weren't reviewed at this meeting. But if you want to pass that list at council, that's statutorily and by our ordinances, that would be okay.
Thank you again. Next up on the agenda is consideration of the Retzloff Development Agreement completion date extension, and this would be for Chad.
So I apologize. I was going to have a memo in here, but I was waiting on an opinion from our city attorney. I got that this morning, so I didn't have that in time to provide any information. But the purpose of this discussion is that Randy Retzloff, who is developing the Celestial Hills development on Beckert Road, the 6 multifamily apartment buildings, and then he's also extending the roadway on Southland Lane. Did approach me recently and requested a small extension in his developer's agreement on the completion date. And the reason being is because of his challenge of having some supply chain issues and material issues right off the get-go. He got a later start than he was anticipating, so that's kind of pushing his timelines and his effective date back. So he asked me if he could have a small extension of 3-4 months in his developer's agreement for the completion date. On the screen, you'll see a couple snippets from the developer's agreement. You can just see that the main developer's agreement is with Ran Ingrid LLC in the city. We got also that the project talks about that the project is basically the apartment complex. The project does not include the street or the single family development that's north of the apartments. And in the developer's agreement, it talks about a project completion deadline of the apartments, December 31st, 2023. Also in the developer's agreement, there is a clause just so we're aware of any type of issues that a developer might have. For the purpose of provisions in the agreement, the parties shall not be in breach. And I highlighted one of the issues is because of unavailable materials. So it is actually in the developer's agreement right now that if he's got supply chain issues or other type of problems, that is not a breach of the agreement. However, he would like to just have something in writing so everybody's on the same page of what is expected from him and the city. Again, I talked to Attorney Stegbauer about it. He said he feels a simple MOU, memorandum of understanding, to be created that both parties would sign and agree to the deadline. Randy did request a 1 to 4 month extension. I'm just going to recommend doing a 6 month in case he's a little bit longer that we come back again for it. So let's give him a little bit more wiggle room to get his project done. He's got 3 apartments that are currently built, and I believe they're full because I see a lot of cars over there, and you can tell he's trying. He's doing his best of his job to get everything done in time. So there's definitely not a situation where I feel like he's just sitting on something, not doing his due diligence to get everything done. So again, my recommendation is just to do a 6 month extension. There's no really skin off of our back because the value of the property is set at the end of the year. So if we give them a 3 month or 6 month, even a 8 month, we're not going to see the next value, look at, of the property until the end of 2024 anyway. But I guess at this point in time, I'd just like the committee to consider a 6 month extension in an MOU, memorandum of understanding, just to give them a little bit more wiggle room because of his challenges start up front. So any questions?
Dave, the building inspectors had no issues with it at all, have he?
We have not any issues that he's brought to my attention. No. He's been working and I'm aware of a situation where he had problems with some electrical boxes or electrical things that Randy went to Mexico to try to secure things, and he actually was traveling outside the US to try to find the products to get things going. So Randy's been pushing and doing everything he can to get his products and try to get everything up and running for his apartment. So, but Dave has not given me anything as any issues at this point.
I was wondering how it affects the TID. Does that push it back another year?
The TID district is the increment, which you're referring to, that if he has 90% of the value, then we're going to see 90% of that expected increment. So we will see a little bit less increment in the 1 year, but this developer's agreement is set up as a pay goal. So if we would have set up this developer's agreement that we promised X amount of dollars we'd have a little bit more of a concern that he wasn't getting his timeline done in time. But since this developer's agreement was set up that we are giving a percentage back of the increment based on the value, it's going to be on a percentage. So if he's got 90% of the value on the property by the end of 2023, his increment payment is going to be a little bit less because it's on a percentage of what the increment, the value of that is on that parcel. Does that make sense?
So he's just slowed down the payment to himself, actually. So if it's $100,000 and he only gets 90% of that, so then it's $10,000 difference between what he would have been paid and what he's going to get paid. So what I'll do is I'll calculate what he's going to get paid based on the value at the end of the, based on the value that Adam calculates at the end of the year.
Just out of curiosity, where's the money for the TID going?
Part of it's going to payment back to the developer as a grant. And then the rest of it, we are going to be using for improvements around the TID. So we're going to use it for street improvements, Oshkosh, Becker Road, things like that. That's what our intent was. When we created that project plan for that TID, we identified we were going to use it as road improvements.
So
in the area.
that's why when we took out this current bonding, we didn't add Oshkosh Street in, because we will know a lot more about what that value and what that increment's going to look like 2 years from now. And then we'll know how much the TID can donate to Oshkosh Street or give to Oshkosh Street. So our original estimate was over $500,000. So it's a nice investment into that infrastructure.
Okay, if there's no other questions, any other
I
questions?
will make a motion that we send to council a memorandum of understanding with Rand Ingrid LLC to modify the current project completion date to June 31st, 2024, and their existing developers agreement with the city of New London.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Roberts. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Sorry.
Yep.
I keep missing the folks on Zoom. Everyone in favor, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the finance director's report.
Hold on. Hold on, Judy.
All right.
No, let me share it for Belinda. All right, all yours.
Okay, we are a third of the way through the year. Where does time go? And we are on the expenditure side. To go to this one right here. So in percentages, we should be at about 33.33%. And then when you look at the detail here, again, insurance is high because we pay it all at the beginning, most of it at the lion's share of it at the beginning of the year. That's why that one's higher, and it will come back into more normal. We receive a dividend closer to the end of the year, so that one comes into more normal numbers. I have to bill the utilities for their portion, so it takes like November before we actually see that one come down to the more normal numbers. Debt service, we have almost paid all of our debt service for the year, so that is correct. And then, so one of the concerns I have is, and I put out an email to Ginger and Robert and the chief. So our equipment maintenance is running quite high. We're at 54.55%. So I just want you to know that I see this. And we're looking into it. I did get an email back from Ginger saying that they were getting a lot of their mowing and their, summer work equipment up to par for the summertime, and they had done more. They will do more of their work on the front end on that equipment than on the back end. So she'd expect things to settle down. The chief also said we had a car that was totaled in last year that I paid for out of this year. So there's like $5,000 in there that the insurance company is gonna pay us back for. So I have that coming back. And then I have not heard from Robert yet. So he has a million things at his plate, so I'll catch him one of these days and just remind him that we need to take a good look at that. Sometimes if we can just get to the mechanic, he knows what's going on. So I think it's a good idea that maybe at some point I have a conversation with him about where things are. But the chief also said things are more expensive than they used to be. So we're just struggling with numbers that with inflationary supply issues. So again, I'm keeping an eye on, I can see what's going on here. And we will see how this settles out in the next couple months. My accountant side of me then says, how am I gonna pay for this if it goes over budget? So I am in the process of looking at other areas and processes and thinking through all of that. So don't, just know that I am aware of this and I'm hoping I'll get some more answers for you next month, or maybe things will just settle down a little bit. I know that our current mechanic over there seems to be a little bit more able to do a lot of the work in-house. So I think he's also taken on a bigger amount of challenge over there with the working on our equipment, which is a good thing. So we'll just see what happens. I'm not too overly concerned yet, but yes, I definitely have my feelers on this one. It happens.
It seems like it was high last year as well.
It came in okay at the end of the year, though. We just came under. So, yep, it might be a time where and then I think, okay, what about 24? Where am I gonna what are we gonna think about budgeting for this area of expenditure? So we may have to consider increasing those maintenance dollars. And I don't feel like we haven't been replacing our equipment. I don't feel, because sometimes if you leave your equipment get too old, then all you're doing is maintenance. So then this would make a lot of sense, but I feel like our fleet is okay at this time. So, yeah, I'll definitely, do my due diligence and try and figure out what else is going on here. And that's the only one that's really over budget right now. Our equipment replacement, I expect that one to be higher because we buy our equipment as soon as, you guys give the go in capital, we're out there purchasing our stuff. So I expect that one to be, used up before the end of the year. So that, and then we use some designated funds also so that when we, at the end of the year, anytime we have revenues and higher revenues, less expenditure, and we push that into our equipment replacement. So sometimes we'll have designated funds, so it'll go over 100%, and then at the end of the year, I'll bring those designated funds in. So like I said, the only one that concerns me or that I'm doing my research on is that equipment maintenance one. Sometimes things can get charged to the wrong account, so that was my other heads, please just take a look at your account numbers and make sure what's in those accounts makes sense to you, that it's not specific that accidentally got charged to another, to the wrong account. So we look at all that kind of stuff.
Sewage truck doesn't show up any place in this stuff.
It does not. Yes, they're their own budget. So that is the expenditure side. Does anyone have any other questions on this side? All right, then we'll go into the revenue side. And currently, I feel like we're sitting in a good position on the revenue side. As you can see, we've already collected all of the interest revenue for the year, and we're going to definitely collect more than we anticipated. So we'll talk about that as we go through the year. So maybe, this is a place where I need to put the equipment side. I add a little bit more to that side because I have the revenue side, but again, I wouldn't start doing that kind of stuff yet. I like to leave things go until August, September, and then start to plan. That's definitely when you plan for 2024 and what that number is going to look like. But I'd like to see a couple more months of data before I start making decisions about like, what are we gonna do with that? But everything else is normal numbers on our revenue side. The chief continues to write on the grant donation side. The chief continues to write grants for overtime for OWI and math. So they get reimbursed for their overtime that they put into those kinds of, I guess, searches or whatever they do over there. But he continually brings checks over for $700-800. So that's what we're seeing on the grant side right now. And just, so you know, we did receive the money from the memorial fund, so I will be adding that into for downtown. So we did take those. Ginger actually gave me the check today. So that's the revenue side. Any questions on any of that? And we'll go to assigned and unassigned fund balance. And this is where you'll actually see those dollars come in, and I will earmark that money, that revenue that that organization gave to me in here, like I do the, and here you'll see the Hatton Stadium Foundation. So I placed it right under here. I already did it, so I won't forget for next month. So we'll see those dollars come in there. But otherwise, in our assigned and unassigned fund balance, here's the cable TV. So that's what you're seeing happening right now. That's where those dollars will come from, is out of that cable TV fund. So they're running wires for our sound system in here. But otherwise, there are no changes currently in any of those funds. And we have our wheel tax. So as of in April, we have collected $19,500. We still have to determine what we think we may want to spend those funds this year. Probably kind of holding tight to see what happens downtown and see if those funds are needed down there. Sometimes things pop up when you open up streets. So it's always good to have somewhere you can turn if that happens. And then the list of all the things that projects that have been completed with the wheel tax to date. All right, and then Mr. Roberts had requested that I put together a debt limit and general obligation look back. So I went back for 20 years. And I guess if you would like something different than this, or if this doesn't suffice, just let me know. And we can go at it a different angle. What I did is actually I had Missy help me with this. So this is our debt. So I put it in a graph form, hoping that, because looking at this is not any fun, but looking at this kind of makes more sense. So our top line here is our actual debt limit. So we're allowed 5% of our equalized value. That's where that number comes from. As equalized value goes up, as you can see here, the amount of debt that you can take out also goes up. So that's why you're continuously seeing those dollars tick up. Then we only want to go to 70% of capacity. And I'm not saying you can't go beyond that for a period of time and explain that when you're talking to Moody's for our rating, but you don't want to go over it for an extended period of time. So as you can see, we're not even close to the 70% capacity recommendation by Ellers, who is our bonding company, and or Moody's. So here is where we're at today. So we're at 2023 right here. So we're currently at 9 million. And what I did is I added the new debt issue at the bottom so that you could see what that would look like too. So here is what we could actually, this is based on state statute that says 5% of equalized value. That's the blue line. Okay. Here's where we want to stay in under, and this is the 70% capacity is the red line. All right. The next one is where we're at today. So this is where you can see, so what I did is I earmarked this a little bit. You can see right here, we saw a large increase, and that's when we took out $5.6 million and we built our city garage. And we had the huge river wall project at that time too. So that's what was happening here. Then we paid some down, and then we were in 2018 is when we did the Division Street project in the pool. Now we paid some down, and then we did Warner Allen and the trail. So that's where a bulk of this went to. Okay, and then we're paying down, and now we're going into the downtown. And all those projects that it encompasses is a lot more than just the downtown. So one of the things I want to point out too, which I didn't put in here, so I didn't know if you wanted to see that in a chart next month, but the difference between the debt, how it gets paid back. So we're taking out $3.43 million, but 2.525 of that is going to be paid through increment. It will not go on the tax roll. So, only $905,000 of that will hit the tax roll. So, but the reason that it's all general obligation debt is because if the TED district turns upside down, the taxpayers are still on the line for those dollars. So that's why it still counts in our obligation debt. One of the things that in looking at this graph, I think, okay, so, obviously over time, things get more expensive. You expect to see the debt going like it costs more to build the road, but there isn't much difference between this space and this space. See that? So really not, in dollars and cents, if you talk about, the cost of money and time value of money, we're really still in almost the same spot as far as capacity as we were sitting in back here. So it's just that things have cost more over time, and also our debt limit has went up over time. So the amount of money we can take out went up over time. So the amount of money we could take out went up over time. Plus, with the levy limits, the state has, this is one of the things that I brought up when we were in the meeting with our Congress people, is that you're forcing us to do this. Instead of allowing us to pay as we go, the only thing we can put on our tax roll today is debt. So this is what, and I think we've done a great job of managing it. So we are still in if you were on our Moody's call and you heard, her talking about the capacity of our debt and all of the things that are going on here, she was pretty impressed with our community and where we're at with our debt service. Now we'll be getting our bond rating back soon. And just to be able to maintain a rating is huge. But to increase that rating, she even said that possibly she knows that we're going to take out more money. They know because they want you to forward think. So what's going to happen in the future in your community? So we talked to Chad. I was in that meeting with me and Ben from the wastewater treatment plant and Jay and Missy from the utility. So not only what's happening today, but what's happening with your debt in the future and what are you doing with it? And so Chad talked about all the grants that we received. And then we talked about Oshkosh Street, taking out those dollars, and that we received a grant for that, and that we're using TID dollars to help with that project. She actually said to us, I did not mention it, although I always want to. She's like, once you get this stuff moving here, I could see a rate increase, happening here. And I said to Chad, I'd be so thrilled with something like that in my career here. But even being able to maintain your credit rating is huge. So we would expect that at least, but you'll hear about all of that because we will be, just as an update, coming to council for our bonding. So all of that sale will be happening that night, and you will be, approving that bond sale at the next meeting. So
What does the shared revenue that they're talking about increasing for us, what does that do for us?
what it will give us some capacity within our general fund. Because right now, anytime health insurance increases or the cost of the retirement side for the employer increases, it causes pressure within that general fund because we have no more dollars on this side and this is escalating. So it's gonna allow some increase in that general fund, any dollars that we see on that side. Wage increases, anything like that causes pressure within the general fund. So those would be general fund dollars. But also allows, so we take, general fund is what I look at first. And then what it will allow too is some less pressure on the 500,000 we try to put in the capital side at the same time. So I've been, kind of coming up with ideas about keeping that $500,000 and utilizing money here and there. So it'll be nice to at least take some pressure off how that all works too. So I'm hoping that passes. They've been quite quiet lately. So we talked about that. Like we were talking about it. And then all of a sudden, nothing. Just like, okay, what's going on? But the league has also been quiet. So Chad and I have our theories about positive things that are going on. Keeping it out positive.
Conversations behind the scenes.
Yes.
Sounds like they're fighting on who wants to take credit for it. That's what but I just want to say this is awesome. Thank you for explaining it so well. That really answered a lot of my questions.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Thank you, Judy. If there's no other questions on that portion, then we'll move on to Finance Director's report. And Judy again.
All right, so I have to find it. I can do it up here. Okay, so I completed the annual financial report to the state of Wisconsin, and that's due by May 15th of every year, and I call it the city tax return because I take all of the revenues and expenditures, the city for 2022, all of the things we spent and all of the revenue we take in, and I have to put it in their format. And then their state shared revenue and our highway aids are calculated based on the report that I send into them. So it's really important that we get that thing in on time and that we're taking the due diligence time to make sure that we are in particular putting every expense for roads in there. Because if we increase, and we did again this year, anything we spend in roads comes back to us in increased dollars in highway aids. So working with Johnson and Black to get our draft audit done. Just so you know, I'm thinking, and then I do the MD&A portion. It's required for us to get an unqualified opinion on our statement, on our audit, for me to fill out. I think it's the first 20-ish pages of that audit. I try to put in layman's terms all the good things that are happening within the city. It also is a place where, now remember when we sell bonds, people are investing in our city. So it's a great place for a lot of what we talked about with Moody's goes into their first 20-ish pages of the audit. And that's another place that investors will look to see if they want to invest in our community, if they're going to take the chance. And Chad did give First State Bank a call and let them know that those are coming up and they will be also bidding on our bonds. So I did that. And I completed final paperwork for the TID 4 and TID 5. So annually I have to do that. Next year will be 4, 5, and 6. And then we're in, Nicole helped me and we will be working. We got the jurisdictions together and I think the 20th of the month or something like that. I have to review those annual reports with all the taxing jurisdictions and where we're at. So I'll be doing that. The wastewater treatment plant had their annual financial reports due. So I took care of that financial portion of that. Again, spent a lot of time updating financial information for Ellers for the up and coming bonding. That is a lot of information that they require from us. Also, Chad and Nicole play a big part in that too. Lots of information, making sure when we change older people that all of that information is changed within that bonding document. We had some training, some DOT and non-DOT training. Our health risk assessments were offered to the employees. And then I received some property insurance information from MPIC. Where they had some questions about some of our property. So actually Luke helped me out a lot with that one and took the helm and went out and met with the gentleman from Epic and showed him all of the stuff that he was concerned about and did a great job heading that up for me. So I coordinated and that was it. That's it.
Are we doing,
And a
are
lot of other things, but
we doing applications for that human resource position?
we are actually in the process of, I thought I had it in there. Like I said.
Yeah, there was a line on that. I just was wondering.
Okay, yep. So we received 18, Chad, 18 or 16.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. And we are in the process of interviewing. We interviewed one today, two tomorrow, and then one next week. And, you know, some good prospects. So it's looking pretty good.
Good.
But still, think about that. I mean, that's what we got, 16, even after we did all those wage increases and yeah. But I think everybody's struggling trying to get people in the door. I don't know what people are doing. And then just, if we have less people in the world and so, I don't know. But yes, so then our timeline for that hopefully is to get through that one next week and then review the day after, we're hoping, and then get them back in for a second interview, possibly if we need to, the next week, and that we would hope to have somebody in by mid-July. That's our goal at this point, anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Next, number 8, any other questions or answers by any committee members?
If you missed in our staff notes, we did close on the First State Bank parcel that we were going to purchase from them. So Mayor Mark did sign that over on Friday. So as of Friday, we have the deed on that. So that is part of city property now and just in time for our project to extend that parking lot.
Anybody else? Questions or answers? If none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Roberts. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.